Lisa here. I wanted to talk to you today about something that I mucked up because I hadn't really thought it through and how it turned out to be a good thing. Like most things, at the time of, you think, oh, this is a bit ordinary. And if you wait long enough, quite often it's a blessing in disguise. So a few months ago, I had this idea that I just couldn't seem to work out why some of the salon owners that I was looking after weren't getting big shifts like I thought they should. And so I thought, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to help them. I thought, just give me these team members that you love, that you tell me are really good people, but they just can't seem to rebook or they just can't seem to recommend retail. And I thought, well, it doesn't make sense. Like if they're the lovely people that you say they are, because often I say, well, is she late to work? Is she, does she help? Is she thoughtful? And they go, yeah, she's all of those things. She's petrified of, I don't know what, but I can't seem to get through to her when it comes to recommending retail or asking for the next appointment. There's always a reason why. So I thought, okay. So it took, I don't know how many, there was about 20 or so. And I thought I'll take these. I gave 2 positions to each salon that was struggling because I thought that it would be better to do it as 2, as a buddy. And I didn't want the salon owner involved. I don't know why I thought like that. I just thought, no, let me have it. Like I thought they might be able to open up to me and, share some insight as to why they were struggling so much. And then I might be able to go back and help the salon owner. So you've probably worked out by now, I've got a very persistent personality. And if I want to do something, I'll find a way to make it happen. And I've always been the same. And what I'm learning is not everybody's like that. And I know that I help salon owners look at the different types of people they're working with. And I've made a quiz and it's like these 4 dog types. If you want it, just let me know and I'll send it to you. So you ask some questions and some are golden retrievers, which means they're, easygoing and gentle and you can't growl at a golden retriever. They like everybody. And then you've got the border collie, which is like a sheepdog rounding up sheep and it's very busy and onto it and gets onto it and keeps onto it. And if you've ever thrown a ball at a Kelpie dog, they'll bring it back and continue to bring it back. They like to repeat things. And then you've got the fox terrier and you've also got a poodle. So we all have types. We all have ways of learning and that's okay. And we don't want a world full of me, I can tell you. And we might not want a world full of you, I don't know. But what I came to realize when I got this group of people in a room every week and we talked about what I wanted them to do. And I couldn't believe how timid they were. I couldn't believe how what I asked them to do was really difficult. And I thought, why? Why is it so difficult? And I'll tell you what I asked them to do. I wanted them to, hello, I just wanted to interrupt you for a moment to tell you of my up-and-coming event, the 25-hour Salon Owner Workshop. It's 90 minutes and I'll share with you the same strategy that I use with my salon mentor clients. So the power of shifting 5 hours from servicing clients yourself directly to servicing your team and why that will make such a difference to your business. What I want you to focus on in those 5 hours and who is the person who needs the most of your training. And then why, if you don't make this shift, what you will see happen in the future, because this is a game changer. So if it interests you and you're interested in being a 25-hour salon owner, which you can do, and you absolutely can do, and I can show you how, I'll put the link in the comments below and send you the details. Now, back to the episode. When they met the client, they would ask these 3 questions, pure and simple. What do you use when you shampoo your hair? What do you use when you get out of the shower, as far as a leave-in or heat protector or something, hairspray, whatever, gel, smoothing balm, whatever. And then what do you use as far as when you come into the salon, what have you had done as far as, a treatment a salon treatment? Could be a keratin, could be any sort of moisturing moisture treatment. And for the beauty girls, the questions are very similar. Cleansing, what do you do? Do you cleanse morning and night? What do you do after? As in, what serums do you have? A, B, C, night cream, day cream, eye cream, sunscreen. And then what have you had done as far as, you might have injectables, you might have laser treatment, the big guns, I call them. What have you had done? And what I could not believe was how difficult that was for people to do. And I just couldn't get my head around it. I thought that doesn't make sense. And so what I came to realise was what I did when I had my salon was probably my strength, and I didn't even know it at the time, is I have this really good way of making something complex simple, but I also let people fail or let people shine. And if you make it small enough and you agree that the task is really small, like all I want you to do is at first don't ask 3 questions, just ask 1. And then if they can't ask 1, and it's much easier in a hair salon because you can hear whether they are asking or not. But I would have sat with someone and practiced the lines. I would have pretended that I'm come in and sit down and now you ask me that question. And then when they'd ask them, I'd praise them for how they asked, even if they asked it all upside down and inside out, I'd still would praise them. But there was no escaping what I wanted to get done. And I think that's the thing that's really different. I find that a lot of salon owners and their team are a bit afraid to tell the truth and to be really brave about what frightens them or what they're afraid of, and so therefore they get stuck in this nothing changes phase. And it's particularly worse if the salon owner likes the team member. If she doesn't like her, then they don't care as much about their feelings. But when they like this person, so when they're working with someone who's a good person, right, they find it very difficult to make that other person, not that you make anyone feel anything, but they find it really difficult to put the pressure on or to not settle for, I don't know. And that fascinates me because I suppose, a lot of things come from our childhood and where we started out and how our parents treated us, but there was never any room in my childhood for not having an answer, for not figuring it out, for not go back and do it again. Like it was just the way that I was raised. And because I'm probably a lot older than you, but I was born in 1964 and I had 5 brothers and 3 sisters. So you can imagine that there kind of wasn't much, you poor little thing, I'll do it for you. It was like everybody has to do something around here and you have to contribute and you just do it. And so what I came to realize was a lot of people struggle with being mentally strong. And a lot of people who don't have any problems with being mentally strong or have a challenge with being mentally strong really struggle to sit with the problem or allow a space for a person to be uncomfortable. There's a certain amount of we want to be comfortable, don't make anyone uncomfortable. And I didn't grow up like that. It was like, well, what do you expect, you goose? Go and do it properly. Like that was the way that I was raised. And I gave that up a long time ago. I know that's not the way that we talk to people and that's not how I do it. But what I did want to do in my salon, and I still do it today with my clients, is I get them to sit with the problem a bit longer and I get them to soften up and tell me, what's the real problem? Like, what are you really afraid of? And they'll say, well, I'm afraid that she'll leave. And I say, yeah, and she might leave. And you don't know that she won't leave. But I'm afraid that you're going to be in this anxiety place for a very long time. That's frightens me more than whether this team member leaves. And so when you sit with someone long enough and you give them your time, you absolutely give them their time, they will soften and they will either be drawn to you or they won't. And I'm okay with either of those scenarios. But what I couldn't help but notice in this group of people was the salon owner just left them to me. And it's difficult for me because they're just on a Zoom screen and they're scared to speak up. They're scared to say anything because, heaven forbid another person might hear them. And I did a reasonable job of that. It took me a little bit, but I did, entertain them and was funny. I thought it was funny. They laughed. And I got them to realise that I do dumb shit too. But that's how we learn. And so I have always struggled with getting something wrong or failing. I don't like failing. I'm much better at it now, but I didn't want to do things unless I thought I was going to be good at it. But what I've learnt is, well, you just got to practice. Otherwise, you're never going to be good at it. And so I've actually changed a lot around that. And I just think, well, good, get the camera out. Let's take a photo of you doing a really poor job. Example, I've just started pole dancing because I know that in time I'll look back and be really pleased that I took that because I'm determined. I'm going to do it. Pole dance is a bit hard because I have low blood pressure and I'm dizzy. So that's worrying me a little bit that I might never get past being dizzy. But I just think if you stick at something and you want it bad enough, you can do it. So maybe it's going to take me 6 months to not be dizzy when it might take another person. Notice I didn't say normal, but it might take another person 3 months. Well, who cares if it takes me 6 months? Like, it doesn't matter. I'm not applying for a burlesque job in a nightclub or a stripper. Might get a gig in an old people's home, but I think I'm probably past doing it in Spearmint Rhino in King Street, Melbourne. But I just think if we stop comparing ourselves and if we stop worrying about that it won't work and just do today, if you just do it today, like I just think if you are not prepared to sit with someone who's struggling because you don't want to make them feel uncomfortable or you don't want to feel uncomfortable because they feel uncomfortable, then I don't think much is going to change. And I feel now more than ever, and probably since COVID, people are more sensitive and they're more sensitive to people who are sensitive. And so I often have conversations around, well, she went home because she's very stressed at work or mentally she's stressed. And they're a bit worried that, they might cause someone to be stressed, heaven forbid. And I think, well, you have a duty of care to look after somebody in your work environment, but you also have a duty of care to run a business that makes money, that is a joyful place to work. And if somebody can't work in that environment because they're anxious or depressed and they don't contribute, then I don't think that that's the right place for them. But you can't throw people out and not give them a chance. You have to talk about what can they do, because there's a certain amount of things that your team members need to do. And if you have a girl who's a beauty therapist, but she doesn't feel like doing facials because they make her anxious, I think she would agree that she can't work there. And so that one's pretty simple. But if you don't have really strict guidelines around how to interact with a client and what questions you'd like to ask, and I don't think those things are optional. I think they just come with the territory. So for me, what I was wanting them to say was, before we get started, I just wanted to ask you 3 questions that will really help me to understand what you know about the products that you use and what's possible as far as your beauty regime goes. Or hair. Before we get started, I wanted to ask you 3 questions, because these 3 questions will help me to understand what you're using at the moment on your hair, and it'll help me get you some outcomes. So what I did was, when they came back week 2 and said they hadn't asked how many people I was going to, or I asked once, I'm thinking, why? Why did you ask everybody? Like, I just did not understand. So I'm thinking, is it me? I'm starting to doubt myself. And then I thought, okay, so let's not say before we get started and ask these 3 questions, which I thought were easy, but for someone who's maybe not as confident as me, it was hard. So then I changed it and I said, okay, before we get started, I want you to compliment the person. So you might say, before we get started, I've got to say, your skin looks really good, Lisa. I don't know what you've been doing, but you look good. Or before we get started, you look happy. It's really nice. Just that colour on you is lovely. Or before we get started, I've got to ask you, where did you get those earrings? So I softened it and said, let's just do that. And they were much better at that. So that made me realize that it's about the pressure of if someone wants to buy something or if someone's going to refuse you and say no. And that's what it came down to, that for most people are uncomfortable with the refusal of some sort. So if I said these questions, before we get started, can I ask you these 3 questions? And then when they ask, and because I'm not selling anyone anything at that point, I'm just trying to find out what you use so that I can work with you. So to me, I made recordings, I went away again and I came back the next week with another plan, like I'm so determined. And what I did was I recorded people, and admittedly they were people in Bali who've kind of run away from their lives and they're not flush with money. So they were using, oh, you'd be shocked what some people are using for shampoo and cleanser, none, and rubbish from the supermarket. And so I just talked the client through that. So when they said, so let me ask you, what are you using on your skin? And the girl said, I just use whatever body wash. I said, okay, no worries. And then have you ever used AB? No, didn't use any of that. And what about treatment? Oh, once I had filler, she said, and Botox, and can't remember, but it was something like that. And I thought, okay, I said, this is really good because, and then I asked her what her problems were with her skin. And I'm not a beauty therapist, I'm a hairdresser. I used to be. And then I asked her, I said, so what would you like your skin to do or be or whatever? She goes, well, I just feel it's very blotchy. And I can see that living in Bali, my skin's getting like more red and on my face and seems to be really uneven and it's dry. And so she named a few things. I said, well, would you like me to tell you what I think would really change the needle? She goes, yeah, it would. So then I explained a little bit about, like your skin is, it's an organ, right? It's going to reflect what's going on. So if you're not going to cover up your face and you're going to get sun on it, well, that's going to make it uneven, especially your nose sticks out further than anything else. So she goes, yeah, my nose always gets sunburnt. The rest of me doesn't. So, things like that. And then when they listen to them, they go, you just do it so easy. And I think I do because I care, because all I'm trying to do is find out what that person uses so that I can make suggestions. So then I explained that, perhaps if you did a cleanser at night, and I even gave that girl a sample because I know her, and some people just don't want to do the work and get the results. Like people all the time say my skin's lovely, but I put it in and I do it. I could never go to bed without washing my skin. But I don't know, I've always done that. But I think I was in my 40s before a beauty therapist said, what about this? What about this? And I said, oh my God, your stuff's so good. And what I've been using. And so I think that there is a real fear of being rejected. And the sad part is that the hairdresser and the beauty therapist know so much. They know so much. I think the problem is they just don't share it, and they don't share it all day long. And I think, why? Why don't you do that? And I know I didn't at first until somebody taught me. But the minute they taught me, I thought, this is so good. If I don't ask you what you're using, I don't know where to help you. So there's no point me talking to you about using a tinted shampoo and then a cleansing shampoo and a normal shampoo if what you're using at the moment is pert or fructus or one of those, because it's just too big of a step. So if they're using Pantene or one of those things, and then I can say to them, okay, so, and I just talk like normal. I just say, well, this is the thing that I think you probably won't know, because why would you know? The message is out there from multinational companies like, L'Oreal and whatever. They are sending you a message that Julia Roberts uses Pantene, and I don't reckon she would. But when you see that and she says, this is amazing, and, a box color or whatever else that someone else uses, you think, well, she uses it and that's why they pay them. And so the problem is that they've got really big budgets for marketing and really low budgets for products. And so as a hairdresser or a beauty therapist, we're kind of up against it really, because one looks and smells beautiful and it feels really good on your hair, like the Pantene does, because it's got silicone and it coats your hair, and in time it builds up, and basically it's a shit product. And if you're a hairdresser and you're coloring people's hair, there's some products like that if you put the lightening powder on and the peroxide, that hair will heat up, almost catch on fire. So that's what happens. But you have to be careful how much information you share, and of course don't be judging, because nobody wants to be told, well, you're an idiot for using that. And so if you come in with it compassionately and you spend time with the person, and that would be all I would talk about, and I'd just give the person a sample of shampoo and conditioner to use for a week and then come back and tell me. Like, I just want them to experience. And then I'd explain to them that it might not sud, and then I'd name the 2 ingredients that are really not good to have in your hair. And then you might hand her out a piece of paper that says, Google these 2 ingredients, and this is what you're putting on your hair, and it's not good and it's carcinogenic and all that. But you just got to go slow. And so that's a really good example of, I'm just a born teacher. I just can't help it. And not everybody wants to know what I want to know, but that's a problem of mine, has been all my life. I've got to decide how much information I give to someone, and does someone even want it? So in these consultations, I was explaining to them that you have to get permission to tell people things. You can't just go, well, what the fuck are you using that for, love? That's a dumb idea. And clients that I knew, I just felt like I had such confidence when I was working on the floor that I would say, well, you know what? If you use that product, which is going to cost you $15 at the supermarket, and you've just given me $300, and that's a long time ago, to make your hair beautiful, you're going to ruin it. You're going to pull the ass out of it with that. So I would say you can't use that. Well, you can, because you can do whatever you like, but I don't want to be the person who puts all this time and effort and educates you to use that shit product. Like, it just makes no sense. So I don't want you to. And you get the odd person who would be very, well, you can't tell me what to do, but they wouldn't come back. They just weren't my people. And so you kind of cull them out with your bravery and with your just being who you are, because let's be honest, you probably look after 25 or 30 clients a week, and then you repeat that for 6 weeks, and then you start again. So you actually don't have to look after the whole world. You just got to find your tribe. And I think you find the tribe, whether it's your client base or whether it's your team members, when you just show up as yourself and you think about the problem long and hard and you stick with it, like I did when I put together the team machine. And so I came away from the team machine, and look, we had some confidence boosts, but we didn't have what I'd expect to have. And that was round 1. So we're going to do it again soon. But I made a few mistakes. I didn't get them to work with the salon owner. And what I should have been doing is having the salon owner and this person together, not the person on their own with a buddy. So, and that's the thing. Is it failing? Yeah, it is. Or it's round 1. It doesn't matter. But I didn't come to this conclusion overnight. I thought, oh, Lordy. My first thought was, why are you employing these people? Like, they're not making you any money, and you seem to be terribly frustrated from them, but they're good people. And that's what they kept saying to me, but they're really lovely people. But 2 people who are uncomfortable to sit with the problem won't get anywhere. As simple as that. You have to build enough trust and build enough rapport with the person that they know that what you say is because you care about them. And that's it. And that's why I get away with the things that I tell people, because they see all the deposits I put in the bank. So then when I can say, do you really think that's a problem? I just want you to think about what you just said, and you tell me whether that's being kind to yourself or whether you're just blaming someone else or you're just bitching, because I can't see what that fixes, right? And people say, oh, you need time to vent. You don't actually. When you vent and rave on about the thing that happened again and again, and you're just rewiring your brain, and I can't see the point. And so I teach people that, whereas other people would say, oh, no, you should let them vent. Well, they can go and vent to someone else. I don't see the point, and that's just me. So what I'm here to tell you is that I think that there is an all-time low in confidence, and it's all-time low confidence in the team member, and it's in the salon owner. And that's because nobody wants to be the cause of somebody's downturn with mental health. Nobody does. They don't. But if we don't help each other, and if we don't sit with the problem and say, I'm prepared to listen to you, and then I want you to tell me what you want, but this has to change. I'm not going to have my clients not be offered a next appointment, and I'm not going to have my clients not have their needs met for when they leave here. So it's harder when you've got people that you've had for a while, but when you take someone new on, it's much easier to make, this is the rules. You know, I had someone the other day and she said, oh, I don't know, this girl, she seems a bit older. And I said, how old is she? She goes, I don't know, but she had a child in her 20s. I said, okay, so she'd be 40 something. She said, I'm just worried that she'll be set in her ways. I said, well, I've met people that are 25 that are set in their ways, and I'm not set in my ways. I'm 60, almost 2. So I said, you can't put a number on it, but I said, just push her away. Just say, I think that's what's really good about this is this and this and this, but what I'm really concerned about is this. And one is that if your retail isn't where mine was, then you can't take over my clients. It's that simple. And so you have to be honest with me now. Either it isn't, and that's okay, but you have to be prepared to change. Because if you come in here and you work amongst the group of girls that all are really good at their rebooking and they're really good at their retail, and you're not, that's just not going to work. So I said, just do that. She goes, I might lose her. I said, yeah, you might. And if you don't say it, you might keep her. And then what have you done? So then you've let one apple come in and spoil your apple cart, and you don't do that because you just need to believe that someone else will come along, and that's being brave. And either you test her a bit and you push her away, or you don't. But this is what we're doing all the time. And I feel like since COVID, when everybody's been a bit isolated and a bit stressed and that, there's been a bit of a let them, don't say anything, let them. And I think that's fine, but I think that doesn't work. If you let anyone do whatever they want in your business, then that's not the let them theory. The let them theory is don't remind them, don't forget to do this, don't forget to do, remember this, and here, I've done this for you. No, that's not letting them. Just let them do what they do and then let you choose whether they stay or not. And that's the second part. You get to choose. And when you keep someone because they're a lovely person, but they're not performing and you're not spending time with them, and that's the key thing, then you're not letting them, you're ignoring them. And that's a very big difference, a very big difference. And the Mel Robbins let them theory is not let people walk over you. It doesn't say that. It's say let people show you their true behavior and then let you choose what you do about it. And I'm saying if you don't spend a minimum of 5 hours a week educating team members, and the first few hours can be just how to talk to someone, how to pitch, because pitching is just how you get your point across. You're pitching that they need to make another appointment before they leave today. You're pitching that they've never had a skin treatment and you think they should, because what they're doing, wanting a mini facial, is not going to give them what the result they want. So you need to be very clear about the outcomes and then be really happy if people choose or don't choose to have your treatment. That's fine. It's not about a failing on your behalf. But what I find is there is such a timidness around, more than I've ever seen, about being honest and telling it how it is. So if you have someone who's too scared to ask those 3 questions, then do what I did, break it down and say, before we get started, and give a compliment. And what that did was broke the back, and then the next week they were really different. They said, it's amazing. Like it just picked up the energy in the room. I said it to people that don't usually talk much, and they were really different to me. I said, exactly, because people want to be seen and noticed and appreciated. And one of them was to say, before we get started, I just had a look in your notes and you've been coming for 3 years. 3 years I've been looking after you. And they said the beam on the people's face. I said, exactly. So that's a deposit in the bank. So when you put enough deposits in the bank, then you can have a conversation around when they're using something you just think that's really not what I'd be using on my skin. And then you can do that withdrawal or It's the opposite to deposit. People like that. Like I say things all the time. People go, "You get away with murder," but I say it in such a joyful way, and I don't even know that I do it, but I just make it sound more fun and entertaining, and it's not a big fucking deal. Like, quite often I teach people how to tell somebody they've got bad breath. And they go, "Oh my God, I would die. I can't tell her." And I go, "But it's a problem. This is your business. And the woman smells like cigarette smokes or whatever. She's fasting. So her breath's not good. So it's not, I've got something to tell you that might be uncomfortable and you're not going to like it." And, no, just say, "We need to talk mints. I'm having one and you need to have one." And I remember a girl said that to someone. She goes, "No, I don't want one." She goes, "Yes, you do." She goes, "Do I?" I said, "Yeah, you do." And then walk away. Like, if they're going to get embarrassed, don't look at them while they get embarrassed. Like, just make it easy. Just drop it and run. So there's many ways that you can communicate with people. And I think the people that do the best in their salons are prepared to communicate, are prepared to spend the time, and it starts with 5 hours a week. And that's what I learned from doing all this, is that these people were having like maximum 20 to 30 minutes with the salon owner a week. And I think, why would you think anything's going to change? Oh, we see them all the time. I work beside them, don't care. Not the same. Not the same. And so if you don't give people your time now more than ever, you're just going to struggle. You're just going to stay where you are. And that might not be what you want to hear, but it's the truth. Just spend time with people. Just sit. It's like, and you don't have to talk the whole time, but you need to say to them, "I want you to write this question down and the answer to this question," and they can write it down. Like, some people don't want to sit across from you and feel like that's confronting. But other people, I get them to walk. I say, "Go for a walk and talk." Some people, and you'll notice this probably with your children, you'll be in the car driving somewhere and they'll talk to you about things that they would never talk to you about if you were sitting at the dinner table. And that's because they're not looking at you. And that's why when you need to tell somebody something uncomfortable, you don't sit down and stare at them. You say, "Here is a mint." And they say, "Oh, thank you. Did I need one?" "Yeah, you do, big." Might be the fasting you're doing. I don't know. Who cares? But you need a mint. And then walk out of the room. Big fucking deal. Right? So there's so many ways that you can connect and communicate, but there's only one way, and that is to do it. Just have to do it. And so if you struggle with it and you're running the business, that's where your problem is going to be. You can sign up and book them into the course that's going to be on this night, on this date, but it's a waste of time if they don't know what head to put that haircut on or what face to use that cream on. Like, they have to be able to communicate with people and find out. They say, find out what they want, go and get it and give it to them. It's that simple, right? And if you're not asking 3 questions, what do you use here, here, and here? And I need to know so that I can help you. I was teaching a group of girls the other day that, because their rebooking wasn't good, and they all agreed, they all gave the mirror to the person to look at their brows, and they said, "What do you like about your brows?" Absolutely nobody does not do that. So I said, "Well, it's pretty easy, really. You just got to attach it to that. Before we get started, have a look at your brows. Tell me what you like about them and what you would like me to do today," because there's options. There's tinting and trimming and waxing and threading and all sorts of shaping. And then the next question was, "And then I'm going to ask you, what do you use in between your visits here, as far as pencils and things like that?" And then the last thing I'm going to ask you is, "How often do you come in and have them done?" Not how often would you like to, because that's a pretend question. And if it's an existing client, you should have that information. And that took a couple of goes, but we got them saying it. And they couldn't believe it. And even though they didn't say it every time, they knew that's what the information you have to find. Otherwise, you can't help anyone. And things are starting to change. The rebooking's happening. They go, it's amazing. So not just that it didn't go from, 30, 40 rebooking to 90, it didn't, but they all went up about 15% in, I think it was about 3 weeks or something. But a real energy changed, and they started to look out for each other, and it was just a really different shift because they become a team, and that's really important. But when you don't have things that you learn as a team, and then address that one a little bit more because she needs extra help, and then that one differently, because we all learn differently. We do. Some of us learn from listening, not many. Most of us learn from watching, but most of us learn from doing. And so if you don't have that role play or learn your lines or whatever, then you're going to stay stuck. And that's not what I want for anybody. I believe that the secret sauce today is to spend time with people. It really does. So if you're a salon owner who's doing 30 hours on the floor, I would challenge you to say that that's too much. And I think that you should be able to run your business in 25 hours. So that means no more than 25 hours on the floor, but I'd prefer 20 and 5 hours training every week. And then what you do behind the scenes as far as book work and whatever, a lot of that can be outsourced. But I think the sweet spot is 20 floor hours and 5 with the team. So that's it. And you'll think, what the hell am I going to talk to them about? And the fact that you even are asking me that tells me you're the person who needs it, because the secret sauce today is how we communicate. And if you want people on your team to be mentally strong and you want to be mentally strong, meaning that there's going to be times when they don't want your answer, when they ask for time off when they're not entitled to it, or they want to leave early when it's inconvenient for the business, you've got to say no. My dad taught me that. He said, unless your kids don't hate you some of the time, you are not doing your job as a parent. And I remembered that quite a few times when I said no to things that they wanted to go to. And I said, no, you're not going. It's not safe, or you've got school tomorrow or whatever. And they weren't happy. But you do it because you know it's the right thing to do. You're protecting them. So hopefully that was helpful. Communication's everything. And you need to be the person who is quite happy to sit in the uncomfortableness and just wait. And you can park it and come back another day, but don't ever give up on helping someone, because they will stay with you because they'll be grateful. Might not be on the day, but you stuck by them and you were there for them. And if they don't want to change and they're thinking, oh, this is a bit shit, I used to get away with everything and now I don't, then the fancy word we use is they will deselect. And you won't have to sack anybody, because they will see the writing on the wall. This is a place where everybody cares about each other and we communicate and everybody gets the same amount of time and respect. And if you don't like that, then they just leave. And it's a good thing. It's a good thing. You can't help everybody, cannot please everybody, but what you can do is put a culture in your business that you can be proud of. And I'd love to be able to help you with that. So hopefully that was helpful. You have a lovely day. It's almost dark. Go and put my chickens away. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you again soon. Bye for now.